Welcome back to the next panel session featuring a panel of GCC educators who will give their view on realising the potential of EdTech, perspectives from GCC leaders in education. We have been having slight technical difficulties with this one, and you'll see Kay hasn't joined us yet. We're hoping he joins us later. But in the meantime, I'd like to welcome Chair Janecke Aarnaes, Director of Universal American School Dubai, to introduce the rest of the panel. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sarah. It's a pleasure to be here this morning, and I do hope for everybody listening, as well as for our panel participants, that our internet will remain somewhat stable so that we do not have too many technical glitches. It's funny when we're talking about EdTech in education and we experience a lot of technical issues on our panel. I do think that we're spot on the reality of many of our teachers. So this is not a unique situation for any classroom during these unorthodox times. So if anything, we are just a replica of the reality that many of our educators around the world are grappling with at the moment. So I'm really happy to be here, and I'm interested in hearing interesting perspectives from GCC leaders in education on the EdTech and how we can transform our future with technology in the classrooms. And before we get started with our questions, I'd like to ask our panel members to give a very brief introduction of yourselves. We have representatives from both Saudi Arabia and Oman today, and myself, I am in Dubai at Universal American School. So maybe if I hand over to Eesa, would you start us off, Eesa, with the presentation? Who are you and where are you?
Thank you. My name's Eesa Christopher McKenzie. I am the Academic Vice Principal at Alforsan International School in Riyadh, and I'm very pleased to be here this morning.
Thank you, Eesa. I'll go down to Sandra. Do you want to do the same, Sandra?
Sure, thank you so much. Hello everyone, my name is Sandra Ospina. I am one of the assistant principals and specifically in academic data here at Misk schools in Saudi Arabia, and I'm really looking forward to our conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandra. So those were our participants from Saudi Arabia today. And Salsabeel, what about yourself?
Hi, my name is Salsabeel. I'm working as a principal in one of the virtual schools in Oman, and it's an Assafwah school. Actually, we are a group of the schools, and we start something called like virtual school this year, also because of the pandemic. So I'm the principal for this school. I'm really happy to be with you and sharing the experience with you today.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Salsabeel. We are also waiting for, as Sarah said in the introduction, we're waiting for Vacher to join us as well, if the technical situation allows him to join the panel, who's also in a school in Oman. So we might have two participants from Oman, but for the moment, Salsabeel, you're the Omani representative. It's interesting that you are running a virtual school. I think we will definitely hear more about that when we start our conversation about the reality of educational technology. I'd like to start us off with a visionary question, and really to hit on the topic of this particular panel discussion. How do we realize the potential of our students, making them future ready, especially in our which is so unknown, but how do we prepare them for that unknown future with enhanced technology in our classrooms? And Salsabeel, since you are running a virtual school, maybe you could start us off with your vision for how EdTech can really revolutionize the scene for education, and particularly for our learners to future ready them for what comes beyond the classroom walls.
Yeah, sure, I can do this, but first of all, I have to just clarify something. I think, in my opinion, this virtual school will not continue for this coming year. I think it will be a blended learning, like maybe in this coming year, if this pandemic or any other situation came, it will be we will go to the blended or mixed learning, as they are saying. So I think how to change the classroom and how the environment can be. So I think it should be like technical friendly. The building, the classroom setup itself. We can add some charging ports, like the student, they can charging when they are working, and also we have to train our teachers to be only the are morphing the classes. So the teacher will not be like anymore standing in the middle of the class and just the student, they are watching them. The teacher will be just morphing the class. He will give the class or give the lesson behind the desk and watching the students behind the screen. Also, I think we have to change the building according to the Wi-Fi. This wall, we experienced this year. The wall were disconnected the Wi-Fi, so we have to change our classroom walls to be allowing the Wi-Fi to be connected all the time. Also, I think our school should be more greener, and we should communicate different with the student and find different way to communicate with them. The students were complaining this year they cannot communicate with their friends. They cannot find quality time to spend with their friends. They are missing this atmosphere, and I think we have to start now. It's not like just a dream. We have to make the school like that, make the class like that, make the teacher like that. We have to start now with the very small steps. We can start with a Wi-Fi, strong Wi-Fi. We can start with changing step by step the wall, changing step by step the teacher's mentality. It's not like a dream will come true. I think like the school should start now with the very small steps.
Thank you, Salsabeel. I think that's very useful advice. We'll get back to that actually, because I do recognize that many schools around, both here in our region, in the GCC countries, will be vastly different with their access to technology. So definitely something I'd like us to come back to and explore a little bit more, and also maybe some advice from the panelists on how schools with limited resources can also prepare better for a technologically driven future. But let's hear also from the other panelists. So Sandra, from a visionary perspective, if we start kind of broad and we can narrow it down after, where do you see the strengths of education technology or EdTech in the classrooms to prepare your students for the future?
Sure, thank you. To add on to what Salsabeel said, I always think about, before we introduce anything into the classroom, we start with what is our purpose? What is the why? Why are we doing that? When we have that clear purpose and that vision, that should create a culture within our school, right? And a culture, it will drive the behavior. And, you know, after that, when we have a clear vision of why we want to do things, then we start acquiring the tools, which are our EdTech tools, right? And so when I'm thinking about in a classroom, I would like to have tools that are versatile, so that one tool can actually serve multiple purposes and multiple uses. So that cuts in cost, because it has a tool that can be used for many things. Technology that captures learning, so that allows the students to have a documentation of what they're doing and how they're growing. I think about a classroom where there's technologies that allows for collaboration, because those are the real things that students will be taking from, you know, the technology, like not just isolated, but technologies that allow for collaboration among the students and the teachers, etc. So those are, you know, some of the little things that I envision in our classrooms.
Excellent. Thank you, Sandra. I'll pass the word over to you as well, Eesa, Christopher, to explore your vision for the future of EdTech, or for future readiness, rather.
Yeah, thank you. There's some important things that Salsabeel and Sandra, they both mentioned in terms of creating that vision and developing the culture and having the infrastructure there as well. But I'd like to err on the side of caution when it comes to us preparing students for the future. I mean, there's many examples where EdTech have been introduced into schools, where it's just been introduced without any kind of real purpose, without any kind of vision, and it's become somewhat of a failure, or not as the people who wrote that policy or implemented that policy, as it should have turned out. And I mean, some examples is the iPads in Florida, in Palm Beach, where everyone was given iPads, and it just turned out that the kids just used the iPads for their books. And I think people had this massive vision of everyone having interaction with communication and different programs being used and the collection of data, when in the end they just use it as PDF copies of the books. Another one, and a big one, is smartboards. I mean, studies have shown that most teachers, they use the smartboards as display boards, as projectors. No one really uses it for what they were intended for. So these are some examples of, when technology has been used and it hasn't been implemented to the best of our abilities. So for me personally, I'd like to, look at the research, look at the purpose of particular items, and be careful about marketing products that have been there just to market and just to make money, as businesses do. Making sure that you scrutinize, you've analyzed, and we're very sure that this particular piece of technology is there to meet our vision, our needs. Understanding the pitfalls of technology, working as a school to ensure that we have the correct infrastructure, not just physical infrastructure as was touched upon earlier, but also the software, the networking, and making sure that these things are in place. So it's about creating that vision, taking small steps and monitoring those small steps as we go along, and not being afraid to say, okay, this isn't working, let's get rid of it, let's change the motive. So yeah, these are some of the things that I'd like to mention.
I think you're touching on some really important issues, and going back to what Sandra said as well, because Eesa, you're talking about the big why. Why are we doing this? And having that purpose. And I think you have all of you have touched on some of the challenges that we're facing with technology. And as we started off today as well, we realized that we have a technology challenge today because our connectivity is not optimal. And we know that a lot of our teachers around the schools are struggling with that. Salsabeel, you mentioned the width of your wall simply is an obstacle for your connectivity just within the building. So imagine we're also connecting across we're connecting across country borders and long distances, time zones, etc. So what are some of the mechanisms that you managed to put in place in your own school environments to grapple with some of the challenges that we face with technology, and thinking maybe mainly on our teachers? How do you in your schools prepare the teachers for a different kind of approaches to teaching and learning with technology? So maybe if I jump to Sandra, would you, Sandra, be able to explore a little bit how you support your teachers with the challenges that also can be faced when introducing technology?
Sure, absolutely. So one of the things that we realized, from our learning experiences, because we're very lucky to have a lot of resources where we're actually able to bring in things that you might not see in a regular school. So one of the things that we learned from acquiring technology is that we need to have the input of our teachers before we go on and purchase big things, right? So having teachers that are in a committee where before we purchase any EdTech, we look at them, we have them champion it and pilot it, has helped a lot. Another thing that we have we have our champions. Like myself, I'm an early adopter, because everybody's level of comfort is different with technology, right? So we have our champions and our buddies. So what happens is if you have people who might be later on to adopt the technology, but they find a body in the school that is at the same level, and so they're working together towards being proficient at a tool. Some of the things that we do Skillshare. So if you are really good at using a tool, or it's work really fantastic with the students, because we want the students actually, our purpose at the end is that the students are the ones teaching other students to use the technology. And even are much better at the technology than us, and they get to teach us, and that's okay. So where we provide that safe space where we learn, we do a lot of PDs, and right now with the pandemic, one of the things that we realized is that there were silos within our schools before, of like some people have more qualifications in using EdTech, but now we want to have it more of like a uniform way. So what we've done, we have like at least the minimum of Google training. So like because we were a Google school, so our school has trained everybody to have their Google certification. So that's the minimum required right now. And so whatever tool we have, we provide training. Before we purchase things, we have the input of our teachers and our students.
So Salsabeel, similar to you, you talked about some of the challenges that you're facing in your school, and your advice is to start small. And I think that would be something that a lot of, again, our teachers will appreciate, that the ambition might be scaled down to something which is more manageable within the school community. And do you have any advice and any reflections? I was curious also to hear when you said that you don't think that the digital school will last beyond this year. So maybe you could expand a little bit more on that, Salsabeel, and see how you integrate technology readiness, but in an environment that is maybe more conducive to a well-being setting for your students and teachers.
Yeah, sure. First of all, I just want to say that thank you, Sandra, for clarifying this part about training the teachers and also the students. I have to highlight this, and sometimes the students were better more than the teachers and giving the teachers some advice. Actually, we faced some of the challenge when we start, and the first one was the teachers and how they are handling with the technology. So we start with the summer training, and we give the teacher a package for Microsoft 365, and we start to train them on this. And this is the package we choose to continue and use in our school. We made like a support group. The teacher who was getting that training, and they showed they can manage and handle properly. They give another training for another group of teacher. Also, we had a connection with the parents to give us some training, like year training, not like 1 week or 2 hour or 1 hour. It was for 1 year training. If we are facing any issue with the teachers, they are coming and helping us training the teacher. Also, we did something, we did this according to their needs. We were focusing on teachers' needs. What they are missing we did like some forms, what you are missing in your classroom, what you're feeling like, if you are not feeling satisfied with this part, with the evaluation. Actually, their point was especially evaluation, how they can evaluate the students in distance learning. And I think this topic is all the time is headache for us, how we can evaluate our student, especially in that case. So we were focusing in the teachers' need and their inquiry focus, and we train them to take this inquiry focus and develop it to be their project. So now they are themselves, they are creating hotline for the students to for bullying. They are creating checklist for the students to improve their self-learning. They are creating some sheets to make sure that differentiation is there in the classes. So the teachers themselves they improve, and they did this according to their needs. We are just supporting them the tools, and they are doing this. First, we start with the training, then support team. Now the teachers, they are just find their needs and find their inquiry focus and develop it and improve it with themselves.
Salsabeel, if I can pick up on one of the last things that you said now about differentiation, one would think that technology or EdTech would allow our teachers a bigger platform when it comes to differentiation. And I'd be curious to hear if Eesa, in your school, if you have seen that that technology enhances your teachers' ability to meet the needs of the different kinds of learners.
Yeah, I mean, when we're talking about differentiation and the policy, and the way that it's been used in our school in particular, what we found is that it's led to an increase of data. It led to an increase of data collection, hyper data, I could say, and it's led to a decrease in teacher workload in terms of that surface level marking, that surface level feedback, rather than receiving a book at the end of each week of maybe 100, 125 students and having to tick yes, no. The programs that we've been forced to use as a school have allowed us to change the ways in which we go about providing that feedback. And what this has done, it's allowed teachers to become more focused on preparing for those developmental areas for the students. So, you know, they'd have a quiz, a bi-weekly quiz in math, for example, and the moment the quiz has finished, literally the second the teacher has all of that data available, lined up with the standards that where they've been unable to effectively develop, or the students are falling short at, and then they're able to now spend that time, rather than marking papers and all of these things, they're spending that time to plan instruction to tackle those areas of development. So this is one of the ways that the technology has helped us to tackle this idea of differentiation. I feel that even though we are looking at attainment and development according to standards, we still are slacking in some areas, especially in terms of social and emotional development for online learning. We haven't really got to grip with the data, the technology that's available to help us track this. It's still a case of observational notes. It's still a case of feedback from students and discussions. But going forward, we're hoping that we're able to grasp that as well. But definitely, we're going to keep a lot of those elements from the online learning that we've had to do. A lot of the programs, a lot of the forced training. And I was taking notes when Sandra was speaking, buddying up, putting teachers at the same level, and allowing the students as well to take that agency. So yeah, going forwards, we're hoping that we can continue on this trajectory.
Eesa, I think one of the things that you said about data collection for the teachers, obviously with a digital tool, with the ability to do quizzes digitally, you can generate the data immediately, which must be a huge advantage that simple EdTech can bring into the classroom directly to benefit the teachers and their ability to tailor the learning to the needs of their students. It's also something that we as educational leaders, of course, can use much more comprehensively in our schools to drive decision making. So I think you're absolutely right that EdTech has provided us a platform to collect data in a much more systematic and comprehensive manner. And I'd be curious to hear also from Sandra, in your perspective, in your school, both from your kind of classroom perspective, do your teachers teachers now use data differently? Is it driving their instructional practices? And from a leadership perspective, is data also becoming more predominant in your decision-making procedures?
Sure, absolutely. So as an academic data assistant principal, that's what I'm working on. But yeah, so we have lots of data. So the point, one of the things is that the first time, you might become overwhelmed because you have all this information, but what do you do with it? So what we do, we develop this and we are developing in the process as well as we learn. Well, one of the things that data is doing is help us learn what we need to do next, right? So it's helping us understand our strengths and our weaknesses as a school, as in the curriculum, and the PD that we need for our teachers. So we're sort of setting up like this data center that that helps us really have these conversations with their teachers. So like we have the data, for example, we triangulate the data from the assessments, and we look at each individual student and we said, okay, this is the points of information we have from X, Y, and Z, and that, like also that like the qualitative data that we have, their observations, and then we have a conversation about each student. And we track the student year to year. Are they performing where they should be? How are they doing emotionally? Because we are actually using tools to also measure the social and emotional and their well-being. So we are tracking that as well. So when we come together and we see the profile of the student, then we will identify their strengths, their weaknesses, and then we create sort of like what is next for them. And so the teachers get together, and they're supposed to then now create a plan of what to do next with that student. Try some interventions, see if it works or not. So now we're at the step where we are going to start having those conversations more often and actually trying out the interventions and see if they work or not. So it also almost becomes like the classroom is a place where, because the teachers are tracking and checking if their intervention, if the way they teach is working for those students or not. And so that's just one way that we're using data. But again,
Sandra, thank you very much for sharing, and I hope that some of our listeners can pick up some good ideas to implement in their learning communities. Salsabeel, I want to bring it back to you on the well-being concern, and particularly knowing you said that the experience of running a fully online school is not necessarily something that you see beyond this COVID accommodation. And is that because of well-being, or is that because of the way that the students learn? You did mention that a blended model is maybe more beneficial, so technology plays a role, but not the only role.
Yeah, why I said this actually, because we tried at the beginning of this year to be in both time with the student in the class, and at the same time the teacher, he is live with the students who decide to take their class, or actually their parents decide to take their classes from home. So this is completely distance learning with this student at home. But when we tried this, it was completely like after collecting data, as you said, after collecting data, it was like not satisfied that much from parents' side and from the student side, and also the teacher. They were like feeling this is not necessary at all. So we decided to make it like completely 100% distance learning, as it happened now in all the Omani schools. No more blended in Oman now. All the schools they are giving their educational services in distance only. There is no more blended classes in Oman. About Wellbeing, I was thinking actually this is the Wellbeing, and also evaluation was the main issue that the students and teachers are facing. And in my opinion, that teachers and the student well-being, they are very linked. So if we are focusing in the student well-being, it will also affect the teacher. So to solve this issue, we were giving some exercise for the students to name their feelings when they were stressed because of they cannot connect with their friends and they cannot communicate properly with their teachers. So we give them some exercise about naming their feelings and giving them some forms to name that feeling and make it as action. So we did some exercise like movie night and some football games on the PlayStation or such like this exercise to put the students in communication with each other. Also, we were making some exercise like skill your heart and mind and body at the beginning of any class. So now, before I start with you, Janecke, I have to ask you, can you just please scale your heart and mind and body from 1 to 5? So this exercise was giving chance to the student and teacher to be communicate with each other emotionally. Also, we were using that technique like positive timeout. The student just send a sticker to his teacher, and this sticker we are using just for one time. That sticker means he needs some time out from the class to do anything else, like printing, like coloring, like doing some exercise. So we were giving them the choice to take their quality time even inside the lesson itself, but it was just for one time. Like it was not able to the student use it like 2 times or 3 times. Also, I have to say this: if we improve the student well-being, of course, it will increase the teacher well-being as well. So I hope we can focus in this coming year about the. We're focusing actually at the beginning about the evaluation and how the students how we can measure their academic achievement. But I think this coming year we should focus more on their emotional communication and about how they are feeling about the classes and online classes. I hope this was enough.
Sandra, sorry, Salsabeel, first, thank you very much. And Sandra, I think I saw some recognition in you with regards to what Salsabeel was saying. I'm mindful that we're drawing towards the end of our panel, but I'd really like to hear Sandra maybe give you an opportunity to comment, but also to let all the panelists have a final word on how you are now preparing for next year. And what is top of mind for you? What is the most important thing that you can focus on so that you can start the next year, both with a technology platform, but also an approach to teaching and learning that you find to be the most beneficial for your students. But Sandra, maybe I'll let you start, and after Sandra, Eesa, you feel free to jump in when Sandra has presented her points, and then Salsabeel, you can round it off again. So I'll let the flow go without me interrupting you.
Sure. Thank you so much.
Sandra, I'll let you go.
Thank you so much. So one of the things that we have thought about, like just to add on to what Salsabeel said before, is that focus on the well-being, not only for our students, but also for our teachers. You know, we realized this year that when we were tracking the student well-being, one of the things that we noticed, and they did the best, was in their appreciation of the teachers. That was their strength. So that means that they're working really hard with them and creating those connections. So one of those things that we want to continue to do is creating that space where our kids are really connecting with their teachers. In regards to the tools, we also think that we found that now that we're online, that actually less is more, you know. So having that idea of really being purposeful of what the tools that we use, and just creating tools that really using tools that increase collaboration amongst our students. That's something that we found that is really, really important. And that's those tools that really allow those students to show off their work and share with the parents, share with you know, with the wider audience in the school. And just thinking about tools that really were transformative for our students, and that inspire their passion and to do more. So some of those things are really at the top of our list of things to do next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Sandra. I think, Salsabeel, will pass to you because I think we have a slight challenge for Eesa's connectivity. Salsabeel, looking towards the future, also, what are some of the must-dos for you with EdTech and setting your stage for preparedness for the next academic year?
Actually, I put it in points to make it easier and don't use that much time. For next academic year, I will focus on data secure, on information secured for the students and teacher as well. I will focus on the online bullying because it's start to be like bothering us, and we should face this issue now. Also, emotional communication with the students and teachers and between the students, each others. Also, I think we have to focus on the shadow students because we this year we found that online teaching and online learning give the shadow students themselves. They were behind before, and maybe we're not focusing on them that much before. Now they show how much they are talented and how much they need to be in the community with their colleague. So this is the point I will focus for next year.
Just one point I'd just like to just add on the points that we're going to be focusing on next year as well. We really want to reflect, and this is what we're spending the next 3 weeks on, reflecting on what went well, what exactly can we keep that potentially can work whilst we go back to face-to-face teaching. We don't want to just forget everything that we've done online. I don't think anyone in the education world wants to do that. What we really want to do is focus on what can be left behind and what can be implemented when we go face-to-face. So this is going to be our point of focus, and this is going to be what we want to try and achieve this year. We're working collaboratively to make that school improvement plan for the upcoming year, and hopefully we'll have some interesting outcomes when the kids come back face-to-face. And we're all very excited, very, very excited.
Eesa, on that note, is there one thing that you cannot do without? Like one EdTech thing that you will not let go of?
You know, I was discussing this with my wife this morning. My laptop. Honestly, my laptop. My phone, you can take it. My iPad, you can. My laptop, please don't take it.
That's funny. What about you, Sandra? Is there one thing that you cannot let go of?
Yes, especially working from home, noise canceling headphones.
Yes. Salsabeel, what about you? That one thing, one EdTech tool that is a must-have.
My laptop. My laptop, please. Yes, don't take it. I'm sleeping when I'm working.
Do you all think that our students will say the same things?
No.
No.
Sarah, I'm very aware of the time, so I do think that we've come to the end of our panel, and hopefully our listeners didn't have technical issues and were able to follow our panel conversation. I appreciate that we are flexible and ready to tackle the challenges when they arise, and there are always ways to work around it. That's a funny thing when we're able to communicate across borders, sometimes even when we drop out, and yet we can keep the communication flow going. So I think that's a fascinating way of being connected with technology, even if it poses some awkward moments of silence or slight moments of panic, because I cannot hear if we're still on. But it's been wonderful for me to meet you around this virtual table, and I do hope that we can continue to stay connected. I think it's also really important for our listeners and really I want to appreciate that you kind of brought this back to a very tangible, hands-on experience in where we are right here and now, and probably at this particular time in May, late May, coming towards the end of a quite challenging academic year for many, the small incremental things that we can do and that we can do right, probably far more important than the big visionary ideas. We'll keep those, of course, on the horizon, but we really do need to also find ways to make the everyday work seamlessly as possible for our learners and our educators. Thank you very much for the attention that you gave to each other and that you gave to our audience today. And I'll pass over to you, Sarah, maybe to round it off.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And thank you for dealing with the various technical difficulties so well. I mean, we had a few questions from the audience, and the feedback I was getting was really great. So thank you so much, everyone. I appreciate that was quite a tough panel.